Thank you, everyone, for coming today. Um, so excited to have you all here. Did you not enjoy the wonderful, wonderful welcoming? It was absolutely, yeah. It was absolutely beautiful. So yeah, let's get into it. I'm Lakeisha Maxzill. I'm the Community Engagement Manager here at the San Diego Food System Alliance. And I'm really, really excited to have you all here. We are here today to explore the connections between generations. We want to share stories. We want to imagine together what a sustainable food system might look like when we build it across time, honoring both the wisdom of our elders and the innovation of our youth. We gather here to explore cross generations. We want to learn from one another, and ultimately, we want to create a just food system together. We're all in this room because we care about the work and we understand that this work is not made to be done alone. So before we dive into today's conversation, I want to invite you to take a moment to ground yourself. Speaking to myself first, definitely want to ground myself. We're all coming from different places, physically, mentally, and emotionally. So let's take a pause to bring our full intentions into this space. So if you can, if it feels comfortable, close your eyes, take a deep breath. Now breathe it out. Thank you. And now I'm going to ask you to turn to someone nearby and share what came up for you. So we'll have about 4 minutes to talk amongst ourselves. So look at the person next to you, say hello, introduce yourself, and share what came up for you. Thank you all. You are an absolutely wonderful audience. I love all of the reflection that was going on. It's amazing how just turning around, talking to some folks, reflecting really does center you. It grounds you even further. And I appreciate you all for doing such a good job. I heard so much chatter, so I appreciate that. Okay, so now that we've grounded ourselves, let's take a moment to center why we're here. Okay, so we live in a world that often separates us by age. Youth over there, elders over here, and doing so, we're losing something sacred. We're facing a historical amnesia and a purposeful disconnection from our ancestral knowledge, whether it's the wisdom of sustainable farming practices, traditional food systems, or community care models. Our systems reinforce these silos, making it harder to pass down stories, lessons, and wisdom that has been carried by generations before us. But we know in our hearts that we are all connected: youth, adults, elders, and our ancestors. The knowledge, the struggles, and the dreams of those who came before us are still with us, living in the land, the food we grow, and the communities we build. When we forget that, we miss the chance to build together, to learn from one another, and to strengthen the movements that will sustain us all. So today we are here to root ourselves in the understanding that we are not separate. We are all part of a continuous line of ancestors in training. We recognize that this work doesn't happen without support, without pathways, resources, and true mentorship. Too often, the youth don't see a place for themselves in this food system, and it's because the doors haven't been opened wide enough for them. Today is about opening those doors. We'll have a chance to engage in connecting conversation with our wonderful panelists who will introduce themselves. And we want to engage with you. So we're going to leave about 20 minutes at the end of this to just engage with you. We want you to come up, share your stories, share what's on your heart, share your stories of of intergenerational connection. So as we move through today's conversation, let's remember that we're not just here for ourselves. We're here for those who came before us. Um, we're here for those who came before us and for those who will come after us. We are here to plant the seeds that will grow into something powerful, something just, something that will one day sustain us all. Woohoo! Time for panel questions. Okay, so I'm going to throw out the first question to the panel, and before they answer their question, please introduce yourself, and yeah, and where you're from, and all the good stuff. All right. So, who has inspired you in your food and community journey? Do you have a current mentor, elders, ancestors who have inspired you into this moment you're here right now?
Good morning. My name is Ian Moreland. I am a native of San Diego, California. I represent Project New Village, Sage Garden Project, and Winmore Farm. That's my farm. Who inspired me? His name is Charles Robinson. He was San Diego's first black master gardener. He was also one of the first black firefighters to integrate into the fire department. He was our first black fire county inspector. And his vision was to connect kids with gardening, with growing. And at the time, schools were not interested in having gardens in their school. And so he wrestled with that for a while. What he decided to do, he took the 3 acres that he had right there on the edge of National City and Southeast San Diego, and he began doing tours with the Head Start programs, garden tours. He would do these small tours with preschool classes, introducing them to gardening and growing, and he did that his second half of his life and his retirement. So that's my inspiration.
Good morning, my name is Nora. I'm from France and Cameroon and Senegal. I'm part of the UCSD MPH program, so public health. Who inspired me? It's a mix of family, especially my grandma, because I used to cook with her a lot, and then with my cousins and family, we'll go to her house and sit around the table and have wonderful meals. And also some of my professors from undergrad, where I learned about nutrition, but then realized that I wanted to do a little bit more than just telling people what to eat. I also wanted to bring people access to good food and being able to eat within the community, which is why I'm now in that master's. And I've had other mentors in this program that also showed me the way of food system and focusing more on that community aspect around food and not only the nutrition part of it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emmeline, and I'm a middle school teacher, and I am a horticultural therapist. And today I'm representing Sage Garden Project and also all of the gardeners in the world. Today I'm taking on that responsibility in a very respectful way. My father was the reason why I'm sitting here today. My father was a special education teacher, and every day when my father came home from work, he would fall into his easy chair, and he would take a 20-minute nap, and then he would wake up, and he would put his hat on, and he would go outside into the yard, and he would work in the yard and work in the garden until it was dinner time. And my dad grew fruit trees mostly and grapevines here in Los Angeles and then in the Empire. So what influenced me about that is he didn't talk very much. So he was more of a role model. He didn't tell me what to do, but he invited us to join to join him when it was time to harvest if we, weren't doing our homework. But he, like I said, he didn't give orders. He just invited us to join him and connect with the earth however we connected. And so that's been my role model. And as a teacher, I try to have other children garden and connect however they find that connection, whatever they touch, whether it's touching fruit or, pulling weeds. He influenced me to just let the earth teach me what to do and how I connected. So that's why I'm here today.
His name was William, right?
Thank you very much. Yes. His name was William, and he wanted to be called William, not Bill, not Will, but William.
I just learned that a minute ago, so I wanted to, it was, yeah, of course. Leo Senchimanyavu, blessings unto you all. My name is Mario Ceballos. I am born here in Kumeyaay land. I am of Yoeme Yaqui ancestry. There's so much to say, along that journey. Anybody ever ask who I am or what I come from? It's like, are you ready to sit down for that story, that long, complicated story? But I want to first just kind of shout out my little one, Joaquin, here, who missed school today to be here. Yay, thank you.
Yay.
And also just shout out to all the young people here, the youth. I know the Morse high school students are here if they're in the house. I'm sure Lakeisha will probably share more about them later. But and then there was another youth that I wanted to kind of hold space for who couldn't make it today, this morning. It's a little hard to get up here for everybody. If you've ever done any public speaking, it could be a little nerve-wracking, and especially in our system, in our communities where we haven't done a lot of this and invited the youth voice here, and so it was probably a little much, and so I wanted to kind of hold space for this person, and also encourage the youth here to, use your voice today. I would gladly give up my seat to hear your voice, and later on we have a little moment to speak and share, and I hope we get to hear your voices a little bit more. As this session is Ancestors in Training. That's part of my way of life. It's part of indigenous thinking and philosophy, is always doing for the next generation and the generation after that, and for the next 7 generations. And so in that way, I want to honor all of your ancestors who are here in this room, our present ancestors, and even our future ancestors. And in that way, I had to speak to my inspiration is my great-grandma Antonia Valente Miranda, who was from Sonora, Hermosillo. And she was born in Nogales, and she used to cross the border before there was a border, and there was just an imaginary line for her. And she grew up in the desert. Didn't know she was poor until she, grew up and realized she didn't have shoes and didn't have much, but she grew up close to the land, birding, collecting mesquite for food, and gathering and foraging in the deserts of Nogales and Sonora. And so she's my inspiration always. She migrated to East LA and then San Diego, and also grew trees, fig trees and squash, and had her own milpa even in Tijuana. And so I was very fortunate to have spent time with her as a young one, and she's a big inspiration to me. She's here with me today. A couple other folks who inspired me in the food system that I got to shout out because they're just super inspirational to me is George Washington Carver, who I've taken a lot of inspiration from, and especially in the work that I do with POC Fungi community. That's the people of color fungi community for the translator. And a living ancestor who I grew up in National City. I wasn't exposed to much of the food health world and a lot of different things. And so somebody who exposed me to that was actually Mama Makeda Dredd Cheatham at the World Beat Center. She, opened my mind in many ways to what kombucha was, what generative farming was, what yoga and all of these things were. I didn't know what ITEL food and vegan food was until I got to spend time and learn a little bit of time with Mama Makeda. And so she's one of my teachers and somebody who inspires me as well. But yeah, and that's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mario. Thank you for holding space for our youth today. We did have a youth that was scheduled, and I really appreciate you holding space for him, because it is difficult. And we are here, like this whole session, the Youth Summit, we are here to hold space for you youth. We want you to take up space. So when it is time for the question and answers and to share your story, please take up space. We need you. Okay. So thank you for that. So I want to explore the importance of the intergenerational connections. So why are these relationships between generations so critical for our collective transformation and our future and the future of our food system? Please say your name. Yes.
Hi, yes. My name is Emmeline, and I want to emphasize that connection. I think it's important that we all, and I'm going to say the youth, but also the elders as well, have the opportunity to be in a space where we can learn from each other. The opportunity, like you mentioned that, your child's out of school today, but this is school. This is where you need to be and learning from, those around you. I've always supported the fact that there are so many ways that we learn from each other, and it's not just by sitting in a classroom. And that's coming from a teacher, I will admit that. Yes, we learn from each other. So like I said, my dad was a teacher, but the way that he taught, because he worked with special ed students, was getting the students involved and hands-on and touching the soil. He had a garden at school. He had a kitchen at school. His kids were cooking all the time. They were touching ingredients, and they were smelling the herbs that they used, that they harvested themselves. And so the way that we learn from each other is just by being around each other and getting rid of those barriers. That's what I believe.
I am Nora. So I think as a youth or a younger person, it's nice to get those spaces open to us. Like when I was younger in Cameroon, a lot of the cooking was done in the community. And I was the kid who would go into the kitchen and poke my head in and be like, can I help? Can I don't know, play with the green beans and cut off the stems or do some things? And there's always a grandma there that's like, yeah, of course. And then I would start talking with them, and then they'll tell me more about food and how they grow food. Then I would go home and talk to my mom. And if I brought up the idea of planting something outside in the garden, she was like, yes, I don't know how to do that, but we'll find a way. And I've seen that also with professors, where they'll help me guide my vision about food and nutrition, where when I wanted to get out of the clinical world and go more into the community, they allow me to do that. They allow me to ask my questions. They give me that space to grow and go towards what I'm interested in. And I think that's important when we're like talking about ancestors and building, because it's community and it's not just one person, it's a lot of people from different places.
So why are these relationships between generations so critical for our collective transformation of the future and the future of our food system?
I would say, Ian Moreland. I would say when we look at movements, we look at history, there are moments when you see a movement kind of building, and then there are these lulls. I think those lulls happen when people aren't brought along, when there's a disconnect between our generations. What happens is there's a lot of momentum, but maybe someone falls, someone has to step away, but there was no one being trained or taught are sharing that knowledge, and then suddenly there's a few years before things pick up steam, or maybe it doesn't even continue at all. So I think that's really what it allows us to continue to build that momentum, so that we don't have to slow down every time. We can just keep moving forward. There aren't a lot of pauses, I think.
My name is Mario. I mean, I know we've had the conversation too, and we've talked about planting trees that will never, you know, be able to sit under their shade, but we're planting them for the next generation. And I think, I think that's one of the most important reasons why we're here, and like ways of doing and transforming the future. I mean, especially in the food system as it is right now, especially for people of color, Black and Indigenous folks, it was purposely designed to disconnect us. It was purposely, this morning I was reading about the Buffalo genocide that was intentionally done to take a food source away from Indigenous people. And so many things, when I think about the African diaspora and the plants and the foods that were even forbidden from being grown, because they knew they were going to make us strong. They knew they were going to make us smarter and stronger and connected to the land, right? And so when you can disconnect the people from the land, I know I'm preaching the choir here, and a lot of y'all know this, but just almost as a reminder to the youth and to the young people here, is like that was done on purpose. They cut our hair off on purpose, and they took our food away on purpose. They made our foods and our customs and our traditions illegal. It wasn't until 1972 in the United States that the Freedom Religion Act was passed, and Indigenous people can practice their ceremonies and their traditions in the teepee. And so that was recent, and so there's still so much disconnection and work that we need to be doing too, for sure. And I love the example that you say about a mentoring and teaching and passing on. I think if anything, you showing up here shows your dedication to this food work and this movement. But there is a responsibility. Like, I wanted to remind that it's not San Diego Food Systems' responsibility to carry on this work entirely. It's the folks in this room, the elders in this room. We have the responsibility to find the youth in this room or elsewhere in our communities and teach them, bring them in. Otherwise, we're just going to be replicating the same systems.
Thank you for that. So, to speak to that, so how do we make these connections? What needs to happen? And what are some of the challenges that we're facing making these connections?
Let's start with today. When you go to lunch, don't sit with someone you know. I participated in a garden summit, school garden summit earlier this year, and that was like my main goal, is to sit at a table that no one was sitting at and just see who showed up and just start conversating. It was very uncomfortable, but it ended up being a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I don't know how many people I met. Every table had 10 seats, so I probably we had 3 meals a day. I don't know, I met, 30 people a day, just for sure. At least 30 people a day I met just with the meals. So just use that as an opportunity. Sit with someone that you haven't met before and have a conversation. Ask them where they're from, ask them what they do, what they love, what they enjoy, and find those connections and build on that.
To the high schoolers, ask questions to anyone. If you're interested in something, reach out, ask the questions, because usually people will answer, and if they don't, there's also always someone else who will answer. And yeah, I agree. Just talking to strangers, sitting at a table alone, or just standing. Someone will talk to you at some point, and just sharing.
I think some of the barriers also that are the man-made barriers is that we've somehow as a society become a society that lives indoors, a society that is inside all the time. I drive down streets and there aren't children playing out in the, playing in the neighborhoods. The parks, I see children in the, in the skate park, but and a big open grassy field where I grew up just playing in the grass, and you made up a game, and we played together. And so we're just kind of afraid to be outside, and that's something that has been concerning me. So when it comes to schools, young people, ask your teachers what's happening outside. What kind of hands-on activities can we be doing that we don't have to sit in the classroom to do? And see what answers you get. I'm kind of put that challenge out there. Why are we doing everything inside? How can we connect to the land if we're not connecting to the land? How do we ground ourselves if we're on 50-year-old, 100-year-old tiles? Go outside. When you have to do your homework, when you're reading a book, sit under a tree, go to the beach, go to the park. Just get our bodies used to not being in air-conditioned spaces all day long. Because that's one of the things that I see in schools a lot. When kids come outside into the garden, they say, oh, it's hot out here, it's so bright, it's so sunny. And it's 72 degrees. Okay. Yeah. Because our bodies aren't acclimated to being in natural spaces. I think that is a big challenge. We have sedentary lifestyles that we can reverse that, but it has to be purposeful and it has to be intentional. Okay.
The question was, how do we make these connections happen? If you can name any challenges that we're facing as well, but how do we make this connection, this intergenerational connection happen?
Well, this is, again, showing up for sure is part of community work. Just a quick example. I'm just trying to draw on my own experiences here too. The other day I was, just use an example. The other day we were doing some sports, and I don't know, there were some coaches who were having a hard time with each other, and so one of them, I'm glad, they took some time out for themselves, but they took off. They had to leave the place. I'm grateful, they were taking that time, but in a way I was like, the kids though, right? Like, well, now what's going on here? Like you kind of left the kids here, and there was like this greater work, and yourself got in the way, your guys' interpersonal relationships, and so showing up, I think, is a big part of community work, movement work, any kind of work like this. There's going to be challenges. I think learning how to get through some of those challenges and continue to show up in good ways is what's going to sustain this movement longer, for sure.
Thank you. Oh, please.
So, as I've been listening, I think the biggest, that with intention, do it with intention, do it intentionally. So a few days ago, I was driving down Market, headed home, and I passed the Elementary Institute of Science. I attended there when I was 10 or 12. It was a small white building. It's now a couple-story, kind of complex. And I was driving past, and I don't know, had a thought. I was like, I wonder if they do field trips, right? Of course they do. It's a school. So I made a U-turn, went into the empty parking lot, knocked on the door, rang the doorbell, and I just stood there and I waited. I was like, I don't even know who's here. Someone comes over, they open the door, and they say, how can I help you? I was like, I went here 20-something years ago, 30 years ago. I was just wondering if you guys do field trips. I manage the community garden down the street. And she's like, come on in, why don't you talk to so-and-so? Somebody else comes out. We start talking. She gave me a whole tour. I met another person in the office who does their community engagement relations, those kind of things. And we exchanged information, and we're going to figure out what that looks like. The kids can walk kind of to our garden. It's maybe a couple blocks. And so it was just kind of on a whim. It wasn't planned. It wasn't structured. I just had an idea, and I just went with it. So I think when you have those moments, when you think of something, just go for it and see what happens. Let the magic happen.
Thank you. Let the magic happen. Nora, this is a question for you, and everyone can also participate. But what changes do you want to see that will ensure youth voices are truly centered and valued in this movement?
I think, to the people in this room, that might not apply because I think we all have that same ground understanding that we want to make this advance. We want to have place for youth in the food system, but being open to new ideas and new concept, being open to doing things differently. I think a lot of what I came across, or I still come across sometimes, it's like having an idea, but because it's never been done before, people are kind of hesitant about it, especially outside of school and just like in the working environment. So yeah, being welcome to different and new, because things change, and people, I think our environment also changes, so the way we think about things is different from the way our parents think about things, or professors, or we don't also have the same amount of experience, so we kind of almost make things up, like I've never done something before, so I don't really know how it's gonna go, so I'm gonna try doing it the way I think it should be done, and then having an older person or someone who has more experience just tell me, well, that could work, but also we can do this. Just finding a middle ground.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so when we look out to this audience here, what can we do together that will ensure this work that brings us all here today? What can we do together to ensure the work, that the reason why we're here, is continued? How about I do that again? Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So when we look out into this audience here, what can we do together to ensure this work continues? And when I say this work, I mean the work inside the food system, the work of the intergenerational connections. What can we do to ensure that this work continues? It's for everyone.
I think when you ask someone to participate, allow them to do so. Sometimes we ask to have a conversation, and then we're the only one talking, and we're like, remember that great conversation we had? We didn't have a conversation. You spoke, I listened. So they have you have this great memory of a moment, and they're like, oh, that's not the memory I have, right? So just making sure there's space for you to hear their words, whether you agree with them or not, because I know sometimes I mentioned this when we kind of had our talk. In some spaces, I can be considered an elder, right? I've been told I'm a millennial elder. I'm at that end of the side of things. I'm a millennial, but I'm a millennial elder. So in some rooms, someone's looking up to me, but in other rooms, I'm looking up to someone else. And so remember what it feels like when you're the younger person in the room, so that way when you are now in charge or speaking, that you remember what it felt like when you were trying to make a point and someone didn't allow you to make it or give you the space to share or to speak. So just kind of flow in that duality of being in both positions, being a listener, being a follower, and being connected to your inner child, your youth. Remember what that feels like when someone doesn't allow you to share.
Thank you for all of you that are in here in this space wondering, what can we do? I almost want to throw it back out for everybody. I think that's a group discussion. I think for each one of us, I'm going to invite you. I will share my response, but invite all of you also to think about, you came to this workshop, what do you think is missing? What is that roadblock for you to have a conversation with someone you would consider an elder? What is that? I would like to know. Am I accessible? As I look and reflect personally, am I accessible? I I'm a teacher, I'm an educator, I am a community person. I am involved in a variety of grant programs. I'm connected to the University of San Diego. I'm connected to a very amazing philanthropic organization, Sage Garden Project. But am I accessible? And so as I think about, I would like to say that I am, but am I? And I think I need those that surround me to help me answer that. You know, when I go to meetings, when I'm on committees, am I there to receive as much as I, thought I should be bringing to the table? I don't know if that's a good enough answer, but like I said, I think that is really a point for all of us to discuss. Do we have more questions, or is that now the time to do that?
I mean, I agree with everybody with what has been said already. Yeah, I think we're doing it. I think y'all are doing it in many ways. Definitely, it's the reaching out part. I mean, I know we're talking food, and there's so many things we're speaking of, but this is this is a radical movement, and so we do need to be like a little bit more radical about our approach too, I would say. And I know that word can, I hope that word doesn't scare anybody off, but what I mean by that is, we really do need to reach out and like touch someone, and like get out there. I mean, there's so many people in our own community who don't know of each other's work, and we're in competition with each other. We're going after the same grants, the same things we have, and yet we have the same vision. Yet we have similar goals, and we want to do similar work in our community. And so that's what I mean. That's what I mean by radical. Like get away from that individualistic way of doing things, the competition that's always going on. I don't want to be in competition with another garden. I don't want to be in competition with farmers. That's their plan for us. That's the disconnection. So I'll leave it there.
Thank you for mentioning the accessibility, making yourself accessible, because access is really the key to all of our change. Access is the difference between a kid who, failure and success, definitely. That's how we change our lives. That's how we enlighten our lives, is with access. And so I appreciate you holding that for us. So our last question before we turn it over to the audience, and this is a question I had to sneak in there. So this is a question that's kind of like, but I had to get it in. I want to know how love, not just as an emotion, but as a practice, can strengthen the bonds between the generations in this movement. Because we always say, oh, I love you, I love this, but how can love, not just as an emotion, but as a practice?
I'm glad you asked that. I made a New Year's resolution this year and it's already mid-October and I'm still keeping it, so I'm really proud of myself. I made a resolution, and I say this phrase often to myself: don't judge, just love. And when I find myself, how you could be walking down the street and you see, whether you see trash or you see a person that's wearing a crazy hat, or whatever it is that you are, what the world has put in front of you at that moment in time, rather than instantly judging it in some sort of a negative way, I personally am stopping myself saying, don't judge, because I don't know whatever it was that happened before I got here, but can I just bring it some love? Can I just put some positive energy into the way I'm going to engage with what's been presented before me? And I had a conversation with my granddaughter, who is 24 years old. Yes, I have a 24-year-old granddaughter. And we were talking about, she says, well, everybody judges. I think we were just talking about hair or clothes or something. But everybody judges everybody, and that's what I see. And she was really worried about, she was getting ready to go to work. And so I shared that with her. And she says, yeah, but Grandma, we all just judge each other all the time. Because not in a negative way, but look at her hair, look at that dress, look at those shoes, look at the person sitting on the corner who, for whatever reason, ended up in a really bad situation that day. And I know this is kind of general, but I've been finding myself, because I've been doing this for a year, just to stop myself when I feel that way of, don't judge, just love. And then I find myself smiling. And so what I'm bringing is, I hope, a way of accepting what the world, what the universe has put in front of me, and so that I can offer it some positivity. And that's, that's just and it's working.
I would say have the hard conversations, because love is on the other side. How do you know if you truly love someone if you guys haven't been through anything, right? You think about someone that's your best friend is a childhood friend, someone that you had all these obstacles, you guys argued, you guys maybe didn't talk to each other for a while, and then you came back together. That's how you knew you had a true bond. But if we're afraid to have a hard conversation because it's uncomfortable, then how do we know that we really love each other? We won't know unless we have a conversation and we're able to continue to work forward, to move forward. If we are afraid to do that, then we're not going to make the moves that we really want.
I think I have 2 words, I think, to answer your question. It's being authentic and being intentional about who you are.
I think love is the glue to this movement. I mean, love is why I get up in the morning and make peanut butter jellies and get breakfast ready. It's why we get up and tend to our plants and our gardens, and we know it's gonna feed somebody. We know somebody's gonna make a meal out of this. We know somebody's gonna, get that nourishment from the love that you put into it, right? And so I think, centering love, I don't mind sounding whimsical and making it about that, because, at the end of the day, it's why I do what I do. It's why I assume why you all got up here today, because you love your community, you love food, you know it's important, you think about your ancestors, and so at the end of the day, this is the glue of this movement, and of having any hard conversation and getting through any difficult work and like heart-centered work. So thanks for the question. I think centering that is okay. Sometimes corny for the young people. I get it, but love is this is about love. It's mushy, and food and all this. It's definitely a part of that. So thank you.
Thank you for indulging me. I had to get that question in because anyone who knows me knows I love love. And when I think about it as a practice, I think about showing up. I think about continuously carrying the folks that I love with me into the spaces. I think about doing what I don't want to do, like talk in front of a bunch of folks. But for the love, for the love of the youth, I'm here, and I'll always be here for that. So yeah, I really implore all of you who say you love something, think about how you can turn that love into an action. All right, so we're gonna, thank you panelists for sharing. And so now it's that time. I'm gonna turn the conversation over to you, the audience. Are there any thoughts, questions, or stories you'd like to share about your own experiences with intergenerational connections in the food system or in your community work? As you share, Remember that this space is held by all of us. The wisdom in this room is collective. Whether you're sharing a story, asking a question, or simply listening, we are all...
Sorry,
I'm
just standing next to you.
We are all contributing to the work of building a just and sustainable food future rooted in knowledge that each of us, no matter our age, has something valuable to offer.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Kat. I'm here today and holding with me my ancestors, a dear friend who couldn't be here because he was in a really bad accident. I hold with me as well, yes, generations after me. And so hearing about the youth here with us, as this is ancestor made, and I myself being ancestor trained, what I want to say to the young people here and people here is a story of mine when I lost my office. So as a doctor, I identified with what it is that I do at the office. When I was without, I experienced depression, anxiety, and just a lot of stress. My experience with my own gardening and being connected to the land was so profound and surprising because it was when I was making a salad from my own garden that I felt the love of plants and the plants telling me how much they care about me and they want to see me well and they want to nourish me. So for the young people here, when you have those moments, or anybody else, when you have those moments where you need healing, go to the land, spend time with the sunshine, hear the birds, touch those herbs, those vegetation that you grew, connect with them because there's life in these plants and they really can feel your need. And when we do feel that anxiety and depression and stress and confusion, these plants are here to nourish us back to wellness. So remember what I shared, my experience. Whenever you have these states of mind, be outdoors, spend time with nature, and eat that beautiful, vibrant salad that you grew. And you'll feel much better. Thank you.
Hola, pues yo quería darle las gracias al panel por todos los consejos y lo que nos enseñaron este día.
So thank you to the panelists for all their presentation and all their advice.
Estaban hablando de la conexión. La conexión que debe de haber, no nomás es, yo sé que ustedes son especialistas, pero yo pienso que todos los que estamos aquí somos especialistas en la vida.
So I know that the panels often seem like they're experts, and you are all experts in this topic, but I think we all are experts in the topic of connection.
Sí, y lo triste de esto es que los que vivimos en apartamento ya no podemos sembrar nada, ni tener plantas, está todo prohibido.
And so here's a consideration for you all, because many of us are tenants and we live in apartment buildings, and it's very difficult for us to grow things.
Entonces yo pienso que como comunidad debemos de pedir más jardines para que tengamos el derecho de comer más sano.
So we need to really demand for more community gardens and more community spaces so that we all have access to clean food, to better nutrition.
Y muchas veces como personas, a veces sabemos que no tenemos el amor, pero solamente el estar aquí, ya estamos demostrando el amor porque estamos aquí por nuestra comunidad, para aprender y ir a enseñarle a ellos.
And so many times we feel that we don't have love these days, but we are here, and this is a manifestation of the fact that we feel love, and that it is our duty to go out in our communities and share that love as well.
Y todo lo que estamos aprendiendo no hay que dejarlo en saco roto. Hay que salir y hablar a la comunidad y si es posible el próximo año que haya posibilidad de que venga más gente a aprender y educarse como todos nosotros.
And so we need to take this knowledge today that we're learning and take it out to our communities, and if we can, to continue learning so that what we learn and the knowledge we have doesn't just stay here.
Y yo soy del DF y no tengo ancestros que me hayan enseñado a ayudar a mi comunidad a participar. Pero yo pienso que yo voy a hacer la enseñanza para mis nietos. Ellos van a estar aprendiendo de mí.
And so I grew up in Mexico City, a big city. I often feel that I'm somewhat disconnected from my ancestors, but as a migrant woman, I know that I'm teaching my grandchildren a lot of things.
Entonces yo les doy las gracias porque estamos aquí aprendiendo todos juntos y hay que ser nosotros. Si no tenemos antepasados, hay que empezar con nosotros y nunca es tarde.
And so if you feel like you don't have ancestors, that you're disconnected from your past somehow, realize that you will someday become an ancestor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jesse Lopez. I'm 20 years old, and I'm with the Vista Community Clinic. I want to thank the panelists for being here. A little bit about my background. My mom's side is from Mexico City. They are pro wrestlers, but my dad's side, they are from a pueblo, and so they grow their own food. They grow their own chickens, pigs. So as a punishment, when I was 11, my mom sent me over for like 5 months, and I really got to appreciate just how wonderful life could be. And they would send me out to go pick up the squash flowers, and we would make food with it, and we would make quesadillas with squash. So it just showed me how wonderful farming can be, and just a simple life, and how we don't need all of this to have a wonderful life. I also really got stuck on the question of the disconnect between generations. My point of view, I feel as if ancestors and who will come after, it's kind of like a kaleidoscope. Every generation coming after gets more complex. And I feel like the disconnect sometimes, in this generation, we're all about inclusivity, but I feel there is a big hypocrisy within ourselves where I've felt it firsthand, where I've always been the youngest at my job, and I've fought for what my position, or to have my word, and to have someone stop you because of a number, because of your age, and they don't let you speak, or like how the gentleman said, where they said this conversation, but it was literally just you listening. And I feel like it's something that we as a society should work on, to listen to different point of views, whether it's someone older, whether it's someone younger, because at the end of the day, we need fresh perspectives, and that is what's gonna continue to let us grow in this society. Thank you.
My name is Daria. I'm from Second Chance, and thank you. Good to see you, Mario, Lakeisha. It's nerve-wracking talking in front of people. I'm representing the youth at Second Chance, and Andres, who was going to be one of the panelists. And we were lucky enough to have a panel with the youth and bring their voices to light. And I think that shows the importance of a green space, of a third space, of a space where the youth can come and have access, yes, to plants and gardening and the soil, but to elders, to people. And then another thing is the connection around food and community. We're so individualistic and have lost a lot of that community to our ancestors, to our families, to our neighbors. I mean, it wasn't till there was like a blackout that we finally learned who our neighbors were, right? But we're humans that we need community, and the youth need community. And in our program, we started cooking together because a lot of the youth maybe don't eat with their families or don't know how to cook the vegetables, and we're teaching that. And in that, those conversations come up and those connections come up. So food as a unifier, green space, but the one thing I got out of the panel that I think Andreas was going to maybe touch upon is that they said, because we are teaching a lot of things. As elders, we have so much knowledge, I want to teach you, I want to give this to you, I want you to learn, and they said, we just want to kind of learn what ignites us, what our passion is. And we just want to have the space and support to do that, because there's a lot of fear of making mistakes. And there's a lot of knowledge at their disposal. You can pick up a phone and get knowledge. You can know I have anxiety disorder and I need to do this, but do you have access to that? So I feel like me as an elder, it's weird to say elder, I guess, but I'll take it, you know, I've been through a lot. I personally think it's my responsibility to be that bridge to other access points, so that when the youth come into that space, we can connect them to community and teach how to have cooperation. And the other part of it was, and to maybe ignite some passion that they are into. And the other part of that with love is that we can use love as an action, to me, is to also show that we love you when you make the mistake. Love is in the repair. How do we repair it? How do we communicate through it? Let's learn this together. And that I love you at your worst and I love you at your best. Because it's easy to think, to not make the mistake, not take the jump, because you're a fear, right? That we all have. But the only way to teach it is to walk through it and together with support. So I always leave this space feeling so full, and I wish the youth could have made it today, but in his honor, he is a great speaker and amazing. I have no doubt he'll be part of this at some point, but the love is just supporting where they're at, you know? So thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Bianca. I'm from Oceanside, California, and I'm currently a farm manager in Vista. And sorry if I get emotional, but yesterday I found myself at the farm and I was just laying in between my rows crying because I felt really defeated, where this is my first time being a farm manager, but I come from a long line of farmers. Sorry, I just really miss my grandpa. And it's really hard to reflect on myself and feel like I'm doing a good job, because in reality I don't know what I'm doing. And it's really hard for me to be like, well, my grandpa, he came to this country, he lived under a bridge that I drive on every day to work in the fields and in the greenhouses to provide for my family. And it's just hard to kind of realize or accept that disconnect between me and my grandpa. And it's hard to really just be see all the fails on the farm and kind of disconnect myself from that and realize that oh, my grandpa isn't here to give me his wisdom and stuff like that. And I kind of have a hard time being oh, it's not my fault that it wasn't somehow genetically passed down. And it's really hard for me to not put that blame on myself, especially when nowadays it's really hard to find mentorship from community leaders out here, and a lot of the time they are accessible, but it's just they have so much on their plate, and it's hard to continue to ask questions and sometimes even just get that end goal that we're supposed to be working for. And it's hard, and ever since I started being this farm manager, I have really questioned just my working abilities. I always thought that I was this hard worker and that I had grit, and I question myself every day, and I'm just I don't think I do. Why is it that my grandpa was able to come here and do that? And to me, it's just kind of am I really his granddaughter? Am I? Sorry.
You're still here.
Sorry, I'm really nervous. Thank you. But, and it's hard for me to tell everybody that not to compare yourselves and to kind of just keep going, because that's something I'm really struggling with right now. And I kind of just wanted to come up here and say how much I am appreciative of those who are willing to teach this newer generation of young farmers like myself, or even just our youth and stuff like that. And I'm really grateful for our panelists to like stand up or sit up here and speak to us. And I'm just grateful for everyone for being here. And thank you.
I just want to say really quickly that you honor your grandfather, okay? He is here and he is honored. Thank you so much for the work that you do, because we all know this is not created yet. And so, I so struggle with this. We are creating things as we go. You know, we are trying to figure it out, and sometimes a good cry in the garden is exactly what we need. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Nancy Carina. I'm from Ecatepec, Mexico City. I've been here since I was 4 years old, and I feel very vulnerable. But I wanted to share with all of you that this is my third year being part of this event. And through this event, I have made really great connections. I have been connecting to the land, to the soil, with farmers. I haven't been able to go back to Mexico City since I was an immigrant child. So it's been many years, and a great way for me to connect to my culture, to my abuelitos, is through the soil here. Recently, I did this volunteering work where I went to harvest corn, and I didn't know what I was walking into, and they assigned me to harvest beans, which really brought me this beautiful memory of me being back in Mexico and our house full of beans, because my family harvested beans. And I totally forgot about that until I had beans in my hand that I harvested. So I encourage you all to connect to the land, to your ancestors, and to connect with the people around you, because a lot of us are afraid to share our stories. And I think that's how we make a change. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Luke, and thanks, Lakeisha. Thanks to the panel for, I tell you the truth, they done a study, and they found out that it's easier to die than to speak in public. It's not that we don't want to tell our stories. We do it differently. You know, some people write, some people draw art and all of that, you know. So even now I'm trying to tell a little bit, but I'm a little nervous too. So you know, but it takes practice like everything else. So I want to share a little bit, not the full story because we don't have time. My grandfather is from India, and he went to Jamaica to work on the land. So while he was there, he was able to buy 4 pieces of land for his 4 sons. And actually, my father now, farmer, we grew not just bananas, cocoa, but we also have animals. So for my time, I was on the land. My father and mother, they have 9 children. And from the most part, the children were to work on the land. However, they were telling us, you need to go to school. You need to get an education. So, you know, while working on the land, I actually, you know, thanks to the father, end up going to college and, you know, got an education, actually in engineering. And I still work on the land and end up in America somehow. You know, it's a long story. That's another story. But yeah, I first in New York, then I came to San Diego, and I have that draw to the land. Although I was working in private industry, there was this draw to the land. And one day I was driving by and I saw this piece of land with bananas. Oh my God, bananas. I remember bananas. I was in Jamaica planting bananas. But it was New Roots. I don't know if anyone here familiar with New Roots in City Heights, San Diego. And that was around 2009. And I ended up getting a plot there. And that's my journey. Not only that I got a plot, I got so much involved in it that I went back to school and I got a degree in sustainable agriculture. Yeah, so now I'm teaching, I'm an educator at Second Chance, teaching youths. I hope that, and my ambition is to pass down what I learned, and also to encourage the youths here about how much, no matter what you think, you are part of the food system. You know, either a consumer or a producer. To see that what you're gonna consume, you need to know what's in your food. Sometimes you need to know who grow your food. You know, sometimes you know what they put into the soil, because actually it's what's in the soil gonna be in that food. So, as in Jamaica where I grew up, we were just this small community that we all know each other. It was like a co-op, without even knowing what a co-op was back then. You know, so we want to try to build back that community and try to get that connection again. Just not to take up all the time, but and I'm glad I came to America. It was probably the best thing that happened to me. I adopted another religion from what I had in Jamaica. I practicing Judaism, and today it's coincidentally is the Feast of Tabernacles. I don't know if anyone ever familiar with the Feast of Tabernacles. It is a harvest feast. And back in the days, or when they have this harvest, everyone attends, not just the adults, all the children. And they will take the best of their produce and they will take it to Jerusalem. And they say for you, not just that you're going to celebrate this feast by yourself. You need to take the poor with you. You need to take that priest with you. And all the people that will make this they make this feast that was like, you talk about a gathering back in the days, and I'm talking about 2,000 years ago, over 1 million people would be in Jerusalem. And I visited Jerusalem, and it's only like 1 square mile. So consider how much people are involved as community. So, some of the things that we can get back into. So they said to take your food, and you should go and rejoice. So today we're going to have food coming up, and we can share and rejoice also. All right? So.
All right, hello. My name is Jonathan Macaris, and I'm 16 years old, and I come from Morse High School. I'm part of the youth. Well, today I'm a quick little short story on how I got into agriculture. Well, my great-grandparent, rest in peace, he passed away. He got me into agriculture he used to have a small acre of land where he would plant watermelons. And when I was 5 years old, I used to get sent there every summer. I used to get sent there as a punishment because I would do really bad in school. And it was always a pleasure hanging out with him because he would tell me his stories on how he got into agriculture. And it was always a pleasant time hanging out with him. He would always talk to me about how agriculture always helps other people. He used to help out his community in the way he would share out the watermelons to the people that didn't have enough money, and it always impacted me because to this day I always think, how can I help out the community? And I've never actually, I wasn't thinking of being here, so I'm glad for you guys to help me out and seeing how I can help the community. But I also wonder how in my small community I could help out, because I live in an apartment complex where there's nowhere to plant, and it's forbidden to plant in that place where I live. And it's always that I wonder how can I do this? How can I help out? How can I grab in the community together? And I really never find a way, and I hope maybe one day you guys could help out with that. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you so much.
Just real quick to you. So I'm actually working with Chef Coelho at Morris to help restore your guys' school garden. So I'd love for you to join the garden club. They meet on Wednesdays at lunch. And I'm usually there after school. I don't know if you've seen the mobile farmers market truck that's out there in the parking lot. Come out there, come meet, let's talk, and let's see where we can connect.
So we have just under 5 minutes left, so we have time for one more question. And so, yeah, take it away. Or not question, but one more thought.
Hi, I'm Becky. I currently live in Vista, and I'm just grateful that I was born in LA, and my dad decided he wanted his family to have a better life, and so he brought us down to San Diego in Carlsbad. And back then I grew up in the 80s, and it was just this idyllic, when I reflect, a beautiful childhood, because there was a lot of open space. We could go out and find horny toads, look for pollywogs, and just roam around the land as children. And so that built a real connection, I think, of just exploration and wanting to be outside. We would stay out until dark. And then in high school, I joined the Future Farmers of America, and that was another connection, I think, of raising animals, growing plants, and really inspired me to take it further. And then today I get to come here as an individual, but also wanting to be part of the greater community and how I can help. I'm fortunate to have an acre of land, and so I want to be able to give back, grow as much as I can, and help be a part of supporting the community, and also having an amazing mentor of a woman named Mariko, who grows moringa for peace and does amazing things, and so I'm really fortunate to be her neighbor and to learn from her.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. So this is the storytelling hour, and your stories are so important. Thank you for adding to this session. Before you head out for lunch, I think, please, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. I don't have a schedule in front of me. When you leave, if you look just a couple feet down, you'll see an art display. And it's an interactive art display. Feel free to grab a Post-it note, write how you feel, write how that art is making you feel. And thank you all for being here.